Yeah, he's told theater kids like he's not performative. Let's go. Come on.
But to get to that, we have to get to this. And it all began here on July 5th, just the other day, where we have Yeet posting a clip of Hassan, captioned Hassan calls far right wingers nerdy failed theater kids in his response to Kangmin Lee.
Most do not assimilate into America's founding or love the country. They bring subversive ideologies that cater to foreigners rather than native citizens. Both myself and Francesca Hong are American born. I would go so far as to say that in a lineup where, you know, white patriots were going to decide who's more American, me or this fucking guy, I suspect that the ones that haven't seen me on Fox News would probably point to me and say, well, that's the real American, right? So it's really strange.
Okay, last thing we're talking about is Hassan Piker. So Hassan Piker, he just raised $54,000 for Francesca Hong.
Like, who do you think white nativists would think is like a real American?
Yeah. Well, they would probably be informed and say you're full of it, buddy. I'm pretty sure that's where we're going with that. Yeah. Jerk. Oh. Oh, here's an ad. Well, at least it gives me a chance to calm down because it's him.
You can put that cross behind you all day, baby boy. In a lineup between you and I, who do you think these
And I have a
irrational
surprise.
reactionary forces that you are so desperately caping for? Who do you think they're going to look at and be like, well, we got to pick one of the two? No hat, of course. It's so funny. Why are your ops always people that would have been bullied at your school? You just identified a big chunk of, a big chunk of the resentment coming from the far right. They've always been fucking nerds. Bros, accent at points is indistinguishable from more Pegasus. I know, they got that internet accent. Yeah, failed theater kids.
Okay. To be fair to Hassan, I don't know if he was just reading chat or someone said failed theater kids or if he's the one that said that. But either way, it doesn't matter too much for the point that I'm about to make, which is it's very ironic that the virtue signal crowd is trying to call other people theater kids and or failed theater kids. Like, that's what people have been saying about them for years.
Yes, because if you'll notice, Hassan is so dramatic. He just has to do, he's dramatic, performative, whatever you want to call it. That's what he does. That is what he does. Because, well, he's a lot more insecure than he thinks people don't know how insecure he is. Because let's keep going.
That they act like theater kids and they're all performative and fake with their virtue signals and they just do it for clout and optics, stuff like that. But now the same crowd's like, oh, the people that disagree with us are theater kids. It's like, okay, nice attempt at rewriting reality there. No. That label is all you. And so in response to the clip that we just watched, this account Cat says, this you at Hassan, and post those 4 pictures from 2023 that he captioned, watch too much true crime. And so I went to Hassan's Twitter account to be sure that that was a real tweet, that he actually tweeted that stuff, and he indeed did. And here's the context. He even said, this was a photo shoot for the cover of King Kong magazine, by the way. They chose the direction alongside photographer Lydia Wren. So it was another case where, like, the journalist corpos are trying to prop him up. You've probably seen the fan fictions before where, for example, journalists wrote stuff like, Hassan is the masculine figure that the left needs. And the journalist went off paragraphs later.
Yeah, if Hassan is, I cannot say anything I'm going to say with a straight face, so let's move on.
Praising him, trying to be like, oh, he's so hot. I can't even repeat it in like jest because the actual article is so much like it is unironically so much funnier than any parody that I could try to explain it with. So hopefully you're familiar with what I'm talking about. I really don't want to pull.
And also, I think Hassan looks scruffier and less put together than Asmongold does. That is my opinion.
It up again. I'll tell you what. She went ahead in her video from a few months ago about the Hassan stuff. She did talk about that stuff with Smug Elena like halfway through the video. So if you want to see it, if you haven't seen that, consider watching her video and prepare yourself, because unironically, one of the most cringy things you'll ever read. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'll just pull up a portion of this right now. Here you go. If you don't know about this, now you will.
Here's how Hassan Piker starts each day, working out, shooting the shit. It's Monday, 8:30 a.m., and we're in the backyard of a house in West Hollywood, where there's a makeshift private gym with benches, pull-down machines, and dumbbells galore. This is where 34-year-old political influencer keeps his thirsted after body fit.
What? By the way, written by a male too. And I'm just like, I would have thought it was, yes, I'm pretty sure.
He strips his shirt off. An army of girls and gays would kill to be where I am now, next to Piker as he pants in a pair of neon shorts with black Calvin Klein boxers poking out.
The socialist, by the way.
Sunlight glistening off the sweat.
Okay, I just need to stop for a minute because, oh my goodness. Yeah, this is also how you lose weight and go on a diet. This kind of stuff. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Beating on his chest.
That's just one example, but there are multiple articles like this from mainstream corporate journalists writing the same stuff, trying to prop the guy up and like making this fan fiction about him. Isn't it weird? Like, hey, I'm a socialist that claims to be, you know, anti-corporatism and anti-capitalism and all that. But hey, these corporate journalists keep writing articles propping me up, and I love that stuff. Like, come on, man. It's so fake. It's such a LARP. And then you have people like that calling others theater kids. I mean, come on. There's a reason why they're called theater kids, like we already discussed, because that's what these people are. That's what they literally are, or at the very least act like. It's all performative slop. Now they're trying to say that everyone else is a theater kid. Okay, good luck with that one. And if you made it this far in the video, here's a little bonus for you near the end. So going back to that tweet from Hassan, where he posted that like photo op thing from 2023, and you can see in the responses, you've actually got Valkyrie and CatSCAN right here. Oh my gosh, look at this. Valkyrie says, "Don't be shy, post the rest." And CatSCAN says, "Oh my, I want to repeat this. Grinding on men in the club during my." Okay, yeah, no, I'm not. What's a dude? Sickeningly gross. I'm sorry if your audio.
Oh, I didn't
I'm
mean
not
to
gonna
bonk
repeat
myself.
this, dude. CatSCAN is so gross. She's so
okay.
gross.
Okay, yeah. See, that is also, and ew. Also, this. Well, I'm tying this to another story, but CatSCAN's Twitch ban. Yeah, this is why I think she will not get unbanned recently. I do not think she's Dan's type. Yeah, just putting it out there.
And then she's gonna call other people incels when they criticize her for saying stuff like this and acting the way she does. Oh my gosh.
I did not need to see that. I did not need to see that.
Oh my god. Not a sci-fi. Is this like what is it called? Like Twilight Zone episode? Imagine being like this person and you call other people incels because they don't find you appealing.
Yeah, I'm just really looking
at
the
my
screen
gosh,
right
like
now
get a clue, get a clue, get a hint.
Until the
and for
Twitter
anyone not familiar with CatSCAN, this is CatSCAN, an influencer of sorts that likes to spend her time either acting like the trashiest person possible or defending Hassan. Like, this is what she seems to constantly do. So, wonderful life, huh? Anyways, that's enough of these people. We'll leave it there. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.
Let me just, okay, now that we've, yeah, I'm trying. Let me just switch. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next video. Yeah, I'm gonna see this next. But yeah, I know I talked. That was kind of gross, but I just want to switch for a minute to my other. We're gonna go full screen me again. Since we just watched a Hassan video, I want to show you. Let's see, the hotkey I keep. I think it was 0. I think that was. Is it? Hassan head. I call this Hassan head. Yeah, I don't have a problem. Okay, now let's go see what Reckless Ben is. Well, let me go back to look at some of the tweets first. I want to look more at the tweets because I want to get those taken care of. Oh. Well, actually, no, we will watch this first as palette cleanser. Not because I really need it. Oh my goodness, do we need it?
Today we have an update in the bricks and minifigs case, the Lego scandal involving Reckless Ben and bricks and minifigs over there in Utah. And this is actually a really
They have
big
Lego
update
candles?
because the federal judge has stepped in and thrown out the provisions that are holding back Reckless Ben. So for those that have been following this saga as we have, obviously you're familiar with Ben, the content creator, and he's been waiting to put out more content on bricks and minifigs, on this Lego scandal, stuff he's already done, he's already produced, he's already put his own time, his own effort, his own energy into creating this part 3 and coming even part 4, or so he says. But now he's actually able to speak. So here's actually the context and what happened. The real background is Ben removed his case. He took the case from state court and moved it up to federal court. So he went up to that higher level. He went up to those different rules of procedure. So you're talking about a whole different ball game for Ben now, moving up into federal court, getting upgraded. And because of that, on July 6, 2026, U.S. District Court Judge David Barlow, this is a federal judge, okay, granted the joint motion and amended the gag order, amended the temporary restraining order. And as part of that, so as part of that amendment that is now official, it's now out there, he is explicitly allowed to permit him to do commentary and investigative journalism. This is a massive win for the First Amendment, because if a business was allowed to continue to restrict somebody that's doing investigative journalism, that's doing commentary, they can essentially silence people that they don't want to say things. So essentially a company in the United States would be able to say, I don't like you. I don't like what you're saying. I'm going to go to a judge. I'm going to come up with some bunk story, some total BS, some sort of exaggeration. And based on that exaggeration, I'm going to silence you. I'm going to gag you. I'm going to put a temporary restraining order on you because.
Oh, what was that that term they used before about when bricks and minifigs got the restraining order? Was it ex parte or something? Okay, yeah, it was ex parte. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, just like anything else, it can be abused.
Of that the thing that I just made up. You'd be able to just pull it out of nowhere. And the judge here is saying, no, you're actually going to have to go to court. You're going to have to prove these allegations, right? Because Bricks and Minifigs has made a lot of allegations about Ben, saying that he is a bad faith actor, that he's a bad person, etc. And because of that, they're now actually saying, no, you're going to have to prove that. And he is allowed to go out and do his thing and actually do journalism, which is, I think, a massive win. Before we get into the rest of this, I've got an important message for you guys.
They put 100,000 people on one ark and gave me a bed on deck 943. No elevator, only ladders. People fell every night. I climbed down for breakfast.
Recently, a jury ordered Meta and YouTube to pay millions for their role in designing and promoting addictive platforms. They knew their case. You may be entitled to a potential recovery of over $1,000. Okay, so let's get into Reckless Ben's opinion here and exactly what he has been covering in this case and why it's so important that now he can speak. So let's hear his own words.
1 month ago, I was wrongfully silenced.
I am no longer allowed to even mention this mystery company.
But today, I got my freedom of speech back.
I have my freedom of speech back, baby.
Okay, I want to say real quick here, you know, and this is really good filming, and obviously, I mean, I think this looks like he actually climbed up a tower with a drone shot. But let me ask a question here, and this is the question I think a lot of people are thinking: did you trespass to get up in that tower, or did you have permission to go up in that tower, Ben? Here's the thing, and this is the thing that Ben's got to be careful of, because Ben, he seems like a guy who goes out there and does it. It's in his name, Reckless Ben. But I'm looking at him on this tower, like, okay, if you're actually going out there and climbing
be
towers,
careful.
you gotta get permission to do that. You gotta go out there. I'm just saying that's the sort of thing that Ben's got to be careful of in the future, because Ben at this point is under a microscope. So he has to make sure he's not doing things like trespassing, like vandalizing, like harassment. He's got to be a journalist, right? He's got to put on the journalism hat and say, hey, I'm doing this from a journalistic standpoint, because the last thing you want to do is give your opponent, give them something to use against you. And that's just me being honest about the law on this objectively, because as you guys know, I always cover the objective law and try to be very fair when I'm analyzing these things. But
Yeah, and well, that's kind of what got him into trouble with Bricks and Minks and the police is there. Yeah, he had legitimate legal reasons to be there, but some of his stuff was performative, and just like we talked about that with just 2 minutes ago with Hassan, yeah, not always. When it's a legal matter, do not do performative BS. That's never gonna work.
let's hear what he has to say.
I can say whatever I want. I can say Bricks and Minifigs sucks. I can say Bricks and Minifigs sucks old people. And look, I just said it. I'm not in jail, which is sick. We got our First Amendment right back.
Okay, I would never be up there.
Yeah, and that's something he needs to be very careful of. So he can say, okay, now is, you know, Bricks and Minifigs steals from old people. He's implying about the theft of the Legos, but he's got to be careful about defamation and defaming these businesses and defaming the people at this point, because he's under a microscope now. So he's going out there and defaming them and saying things that aren't technically true.
Yeah, if they were convicted, it would be a different story. If Bricks and Minifigs had a civil or criminal ruling against them, it would be a different story, but they do not, criminal conviction or a civil claim ruling against them. Different story, they don't have that yet.
Calling them criminals on certain matters that maybe they aren't. Maybe it was just them being dumb. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was them being greedy, but that doesn't necessarily make them criminals. He's got to be very careful with his language. But yeah, you can say they suck, and that's totally permissible. You can say they're, horrible company. You can say all that sort of stuff. That's the First Amendment. That's what's awesome about this, and being able to speak up and have an opinion, even though it's negative. You should be able to have a negative opinion about somebody, but you do need to be careful for stuff like defamation, particularly when there's a lawsuit out there.
It's live right now on Patreon, so check it out. If you don't want to subscribe to Patreon, then you can always just wait until it's on YouTube in a couple days, but it's live. And also, you can check out episode 4 coming very soon.
So really cool. Their news.
Oh, this is episode 4? Oh, wow. That'll be interesting to see.
From Reckless Ben. Obviously, if you're over a fan of his Patreon, get over there. I think that's a pretty smart business model to put his stuff up on Patreon a couple days early, and then people can go get that and have that released. That's pretty smart, actually, in terms of content creator strategy. So, in my judgment, wrapping this thing up, Ben can now speak, but he has to proceed carefully. So he is in a situation where he needs to proceed very, very carefully, because what he says will be used against him in court. And if a lot of people, especially content creators, they don't realize that their statements online can be used against them in court, can be used by law enforcement. So, for example, if he was to say something that was threatening or anyway make some sort of specific threat, that could be used against him, and people could take that statement, that public statement, and use that against him. So that's a very interesting perspective that's got to be obeyed there. He needs to obey the laws and avoid defamation. That is critical for him to obey the laws, stay away from defamation. But I think it's a big win for the freedom of speech. I think it's a big win for the First Amendment, for investigative reporting. And I very much am looking forward to seeing part 3, part 4, and what Ben has to bring. But I want to know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.
Okay, well, I think he needs to be, like I said, be careful. And again, if there, well, there can be a civil case, civil judgment against Brigham Figs, and the individual people from the company. I don't know. I know there's Joshua Johnson and Ben whatever. I think the names were alliteration, so it was BB and JJ, I think. I don't remember. Brandon Best, I think that was it. They can be tried criminally if there is a case. Maybe. Not gonna go into that, but if they were criminally convicted of a crime that, say, theft, calling them a thief, I don't think can be considered defamation. Saying they stole or something like that, once there is a legal judgment against them for that, you can do it. That is my understanding. Now let's see. Okay, that's it. Now let's hurry up and get these other things. And this is another hot button thing. This is the 14th Amendment that I just read last weekend, about the 14th Amendment. DOJ warns states of prosecution for non-citizen voting. Yeah, but like who declares a citizen and stuff, all that. And whether or not you agree with it, the goalpost keeps moving for voting. Like first it was just like landowners, and then it was white people, and then it was women, and then it was everybody, all citizens. Anyways, okay. Assistant Attorney General Hermeet Dillon sent letters Tuesday demanding states deal within 5 days how they will comply with federal laws banning non-citizen voting, which have carried penalties like fines and prison since 1996. What about, just for laws like the Constitution is, okay, breathe. Studies show such cases are rare, often just a few over decades, yet the DOJ stressed officials' liability for not keeping voter rolls clean. The move comes with monitors deployed to 15 jurisdictions in 6 states and aligns with broader efforts like the SAVE Act as states respond ahead of 2026 midterms amid partisan reactions. Yeah, partisan reaction means everyone's being jerks. Yeah, my issue with partisan voting is that you're not looking at what you're actually voting, who or what you're voting for. You're just doing it blindly, and that's not an educated vote. If you do research and still want to vote for them, fine, but always do your research. Don't blindly vote for people. Yeah. Arizona. Okay, the election monitors be sent to Arizona, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Hampshire. New Hampshire? What's going on in New Hampshire? Don't tell me New Hampshire isn't. Okay, what is why do they think New Hampshire's an issue? And was that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Okay. Because he's only 6. Okay, it wasn't. Yeah, that's been done before, but it said at least 10. Okay, now where was the saying 10 monitors sent? Where was it? To at least 10. Okay, that's saying 10 states can be arrested if there's, prosecuted. But they'd have to catch him first, too, so there's that. Okay, and. Yeah. Oh, he's got a personal account. Okay, well. Jeez. But. Yeah. The thing is. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was getting confused with, Okay, in 2022, there were 9 sent, 27, 24, and. Okay, so yeah, but. Yeah, see, I don't. There's so many things I have to say, and it's like. Let me get rid of that, though. But you want to get. If you don't. Yeah. There are things that need to happen, and it needs to happen with more emphasis on it. It's just like. I'm just beating your chest and say, you better listen to me, doesn't really. If there aren't consequences, things aren't going to change. This is. But now let's see what's going on this. U.S. This is from yesterday. U.S. strikes 80 Iranian targets after ship attacks in Hormuz. The U.S. targeted Iranian air defenses, radars, anti-ship missiles, and IRGC boats. They still had some? The IRGC still had boats? Wow. Okay. In response to the attacks on Saudi Arabia's Whedon tanker and Qatar's Al Rikayat LNG carrier, which caused engine damage and fire, but no crew deaths. Good. President Trump declared the June memorandum of understanding over, revoking Iran's temporary oil sales license as oil prices jumped over 5% to above 76 a barrel. Iran vowed a crushing response, claiming strikes on 85 U.S. sites. Well, both sides accuse each other of breaking the deal amid funerals for Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Yeah, well, that was nice, dude. Okay. Okay, this is a retribution for yesterday's bombing of ships by Iran. If it happens again, it much worse, yeah. You just could have. Yeah, well, and as I recall, the first few days, when all this started months ago, Iran got hit hard, but then they just stopped, and it's not working. Uh, uh, yeah, okay. Well, this is a pro-Trump guy, so isn't it? Yeah. Okay, Iran, well. And then, okay, this is. I don't know whether Moru's letter is. I don't know if you can see. I don't know how trustworthy they are, but we are going to go with it because I'm assuming at the most they're pro-Iran, which this will be something Iran, the blustering. Iran says if the U.S. attacks again, it will withdraw from the Non-Proliferation Treaty, completely change its nuclear doctrine, and fully close both the Bab el Mandeb and Strait of Hormuz, per an Iranian parliament National Security Commission spokesperson. Okay, so they want to do nuclear weapons, and does Iran still have a parliament? Let me check. Called the Islamic Consultative Assembly. Okay, that's enough. That's all I need to know. Oh, my leg's trying to hurt. Okay, and CENTCOM. Yes, this is good, reliable for military info. Today, more than 20 U.S. Navy warships patrolling waters across the Middle East. And, yeah. Okay. So that's all that. Now I'm going to leave this open because I want to go back to explore later because I have more to look at. But let's watch this video. I want to see what he finally decided to do.
This self-proclaimed alpha male fitness influencer spent months claiming that this viral gym beating was just self-defense, but now he's pleaded guilty, and that's just one of the criminal cases he's currently facing.
Convicted felon Wesley Watson, known online as Wes, promotes himself as a motivational speaker and fitness influencer. Now he has another conviction on his record.
You would be adjudicated guilty, which is a criminal conviction on your record. You would be sentenced to 21 months state prison with credit for all time served, which would be followed by 7 years of probation.
Yeah, so do you remember when this was supposedly self-defense? Well, about that, if you've watched any of my previous videos on Wes Watson, you probably remember this whole gym fight that has been dragging on for over a year at this point. Every update was basically the same story. His lawyers argued self-defense. They argued that the other guy, he came to the gym to confront Wes, and they argued that the victim was actually the aggressor. And look, whether someone, I guess, intentionally goes looking for confrontation, that's one thing. But obviously, there's a completely different way to handle that situation besides, I don't know, taking your weightlifting belt off and turning your gym into a WWE arena. But I guess after months of hearing about self-defense, we finally get a major update because Wes Watson has now pleaded guilty to aggravated battery in connection with that viral gym beating, which is a pretty significant change in the strategy. So normally, when you actually spend months telling everyone, actually, guys, I was just defending myself, this was self-defense, the next step is, you know, normally proving that in court, not walking in and saying, well, actually, never mind, I plead guilty. So that's an interesting change in stance, but also, to be clear, his attorney is still arguing the man deliberately traveled from New Jersey to confront Wes because of his online fame. But we'll get into all that in a minute because it's still an important part of the story. But regardless of how the confrontation started, this case is no longer headed towards a trial over whether Wes committed aggravated battery or not. He actually admitted guilt. And now the fight isn't really about whether he did it, it's about how much prison time he's going to receive. So let's talk about what happened, why this guilty plea matters, and why this might actually be the least of Wes Watson's legal problems right now. Because unfortunately for him, he has way worse problems awaiting now. I don't even know how that's possible. But here's the quick version if you haven't been following the story up until now. So back in December 2024, Wes was actually working out in Elevation Fitness in Miami when another man by the name of Hakeem Ibrahim.
Oh, stupid ads. Come on, come on, come on.
Showed up at the gym specifically to confront him. And according to the defense, Ibrahim had flown from New Jersey because of Wes's online presence and wanted to fight. That's been the backbone of what Wes's legal strategy was from the beginning. And honestly, if somebody books a flight just to argue with an influencer at the gym, that's already one of the dumbest vacation itineraries I've heard of, but
Yeah, like, yeah, I want to go on vacation to see places I want to see. That's it. And I want to go on Caribbean cruise because I want to go to Nassau and hug a dolphin. A platonic hug. No non-consensual stuff happening, please. Thank you.
hey, here we are. I know a lot of people are going to say, wait, didn't you just do that? Well, that wasn't a vacation. That was just my job. I'll leave it there. But also, I will never get physical with anything. I will just ask people questions. That's about it. Regardless, this confrontation escalated quickly. And investigators say that Ibrahim set up his phone to record the interaction, approached Wes, and at one point pushed him. Then, according to police, Wes took off his weightlifting belt and repeatedly struck him with it. Authorities also allege that after the victim went to the ground, he was punched and kicked by Wes and several other men until a gym employee stepped in to actually stop the attack. And the victim was left with a fractured face, a concussion, and other injuries. And here's where the part that I've always found very interesting about this case happened, because the entire argument has always been about what happened after that first interaction. Because obviously there's a pretty big difference between defending yourself and continuing to attack someone after the immediate threat has ended. And that's ultimately what the prosecutors believed happened here.
I don't think there was any dispute at the beginning of this that Wes was initially able to use force. The tricky part of this case is, when does that force need to be exercised and stopped? And perhaps at this point, he went a bit too far.
Perhaps? Okay, so after more than a year of this case moving through the courts, Wes has now pleaded guilty to aggravated battery instead of, I guess, taking that argument all the way to trial. And a guilty plea changes the conversation completely. So instead of asking a jury, was this self-defense, you're now standing in court admitting to guilt to aggravated battery and shifting the focus to sentencing. So for months, this case looked like it was heading towards a courtroom battle over who started the fight, whether Wes had the right to defend himself, and whether Florida's self-defense laws applied here. Now, prosecutors and the defense are negotiating over how much time Wes should spend behind bars. And I guess under a proposed plea agreement, prosecutors are recommending a sentence of 21 months in prison, with credit for the time he's currently served. And then on top of that, that's also followed by 7 years of probation and court-ordered mental health treatment. And I will have to admit, after seeing the mental health treatment part, that kind of had me stumped for a second, because what do you mean? Has he been wrong all along? Because remember, he's essentially a mental health coach, and now he needs mental health treatment? So if you've watched, like, I don't know, 5 minutes of Wes's content over the past couple of years, his solution to any mental health problems seemingly was wake up earlier, yell louder, and do more burpees. You just gotta be accountable of your own life and your own actions. That's essentially what he was beating into people. Clearly, he was also physically beating people. So overall, as a mental health coach and alpha male mentor, skill issue. But also, before anyone thinks, okay, 21 months in prison, and thinks, okay, well, that's the sentence, it's not really that simple, because the plea agreement includes recommendations from the prosecutors, but Wes isn't actually scheduled to be sentenced until later this month. So his attorneys are reportedly planning to continue meeting with the prosecutors in an effort to get an even shorter prison sentence before that hearing, which I have to admire the confidence, because you're already looking at a deal that includes credit for the time you've spent in jail, and the response is basically, hey, can we make that prison sentence a little bit shorter, please? Like, I get it. Why not swing for the fences? But also, it's not like he's not facing any other criminal problems. Because while this case is getting a little bit closer to the finish line, Wes still has another criminal case pending in Broward County. And that's the one involving the allegations of domestic violence, and along with charges including felony battery, aggravated assault, and witness tampering. And those charges are still pending, and Wes has pleaded not guilty in that case. So even if this plea agreement goes exactly the way his attorneys hope, this isn't the end of his legal problems. This is kind of like checking one thing off of that to-do list, a very long to-do list. And a couple of years ago, this guy's entire brand, again, was built around telling people that he has completely turned around his life after prison. All he had to do was have a little bit of mental discipline, and he was taking these extremely expensive coaching programs and sitting on calls and also pawning off these calls, allegedly, to essentially sell people on the fact that he has the secret sauce to fixing your life and making $1 bazillion. Clearly it doesn't, and it seems like he was a grifter all along. Who would have thought? So now we're sitting here talking about multiple felony cases at the same time, and that's really not exactly that comeback story he was really selling. But there's also another side of the story that's a little bit easy to lose sight of when we spend so much time talking about court dates and plea agreements. So there's still a victim at the center of all this. So according to his attorneys, Hakeem Ibrahim suffered multiple facial fractures, injuries to his teeth and jaw, and a concussion during the attack. So following a guilty plea, attorneys representing Ibrahim released a statement calling it an important step towards accountability. They also made it clear that they're not finished, because even though the criminal case is moving forward towards sentencing, the civil lawsuit against Wes Watson is still moving forward. And
Yeah, this, okay, I was wondering how badly he got beat, because this was, yeah, it was in a gym. I'm pretty sure they attacked him with some of the weights, but it looks like he wasn't permanently disabled or anything, so that's good.
Those two are completely different things. So the criminal case is about whether the state believes a crime was committed and what punishment should follow. And the civil case is about whether the victim is entitled to financial compensation for what happened.
The victim filed a civil lawsuit seeking $50,000 in damages against the gym and Watson. Today, Watson's civil attorney says this case should be dismissed.
So this guilty plea doesn't just affect what happens on July 17th. It could also become an important part on the civil case that's still working its way through the courts. And honestly, that's just another reason why guilty plea surprised me. Because obviously for months, this conversation was about proving this was self-defense. Like, you don't usually spend over a year saying, just wait until everyone hears my side, and then end the case with, well, actually, I plead guilty. Something's just not adding up here. I guess he's just out of options, honestly. That's probably what's going on. Like, there are plenty of reasons why defendants accept plea deals, and I'm not gonna pretend that I know exactly why Wes decided to do this. And obviously, there's that other case, the one tied to the alleged domestic violence incident involving his girlfriend. So, according to investigators, she suffered also visible injuries, including bruising, cuts, and an alleged assault inside of the home. So the two cases don't really prove a good track record for him. But police also allege that she was physically restrained, dragged by her hair, struck multiple times, and prevented from leaving the residence. So I mean, again, if all of this is true, the dude is a monster. So even after this guilty plea, his legal troubles are way far from over. In fact, the Broward County case could end up being a way bigger case. But for now, all eyes, I guess, are on the sentencing hearing. So if a judge accepts the recommended deal, again, Wes is expected to receive 21 months in prison, with credit for time he's already served, followed by 7 years of probation and a court-ordered mental health treatment. But again, shout out to John Bravo for breaking this and being an extremely good source to the whole story. And it'll definitely be interesting to see what kind of sentence this guy ends up getting. But without further ado, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.
And then let's go back. Wait. Oh yeah, I gotta go back. See what else videos there are. News. There's gonna be. Oh, I know this man. I want to check. It's not happy, but okay. Yeah, there's that guy. Oh, there's Moise Critical talking about him too. Okay. Yeah, this guy. Oh, Wes Watson. I'm trying to remember if he's the same guy who also went by Gadushka. I don't even know these crazy names they do. Let me just check. There. Okay, well, scene. So many. Yeah. Oh, quite a few reckless Ben. Let's see what's going on, and yeah. I gotta. Yeah, I was expecting more videos. Ooh. Okay. It was. I was expecting. Yeah, I was expecting those videos to go longer, but yeah. Breathe. Okay, breathe. Well, now I don't have to go to the bathroom, so that's good. Okay. This is where was yeah well, I do want to. Okay, I do need to go back to Twitter and see. I didn't fully check the Explorer news. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but Leaflet, because of her announcement, she was trending earlier. And yeah. Is she still doing it? With a lot of stuff. Or Bahrain? What's going on in Bahrain? Air Force One. Where is? Where? Does not have. I knew I should have taken a screenshot. But I knew Leaflet was here. I did Grok. Are they doing Dune again? Oh, Dune Part 3 only. Okay, December 18th. Okay. All right, now what I'm about to say might offend some of you, but I remember in the early to mid 80s watching the original Star Wars and Dune movies, and even though I don't really remember watching like what actually happened in the movies, I just remember how I felt about them, and I liked Dune more than I liked Star Wars. That is my opinion on them. That is what I remember. That Dune was better. But the Ewoks were cuter. The Ewoks were cute. And yeah, I think I saw Dune on TV. I don't remember about Star Wars because I was, but oh, hey Mars. Oh, 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 oh. Maybe it might be. Well, I don't know if you consider this a jump scare or not, but I did it earlier, but I don't think my chat was quiet at times. Yeah, these special effects you can do. I found out how to give myself. I call it Hassan head. I found out how to shrink my head down. Mm. Yeah. Like I said, I was also somewhere between the ages of 5 and 10 when I saw, or maybe it was, I don't even remember when. I remember, I'm pretty sure I saw Dune on TV, not in the theaters. I don't remember when did they come out? Let me just check. $1984. Okay. I would have been, yeah, I could have seen it. Uh, I could have seen it in the theater, I suppose. But I don't know if it was TV or theater. I want to say TV, but I could be wrong. And I also vaguely think I didn't understand too much of it. Maybe it was just the colors and noise. I don't know. Because I would have been 5 years old when it came out. I could understand some stuff. But let me check something else. My other, let's see. I just want to check the timeline. Okay, yeah, I was watching. So yeah. Uh, mm, mm. Okay, so yeah. Maybe I did see Dune in the theaters, so I saw Care Bears. Mm. Um, but yes, that is my big secret. My big hot take. Dune was a better movie than Star Wars. Well, the original trilogy, yeah. I do not claim, like I said, even though I'm not a big Star Wars fan, the original trilogy is where it ends with me. I don't see the point in watching anything beyond those. And that doesn't other people like him, the prequels and sequels. That's fine. I don't. Yeah, I remember that. I remember both. Okay, Nightmares. We'll get ya. Yeah, they were orphans, I believe, and then there was the second one involved was at a camp and a really good marble player. I don't remember. I think I played marbles as a kid vaguely. Yeah, but so I could have seen that other so much stuff. And yes, I had no choice in not being a nerd. I was raised on sci-fi fantasy stuff. Okay. That that is my like you always say, people want to claim victim. I was groomed into being into sci-fi fantasy stuff. Okay. It wasn't my choice. I just prefer fantasy to sci-fi anyway. And now let's see. I have time for one. Oh, whoa. Yeah, 12 minutes left. Okay. Oh, here we go. I want to watch this one too. Anyway, I want to see what this guy happened
Double up
with
the
this
fun
guy.
with 2 large, 1-topping pizzas for just $25.99. At Peter Piper Pizza, the fun is baked in.
Did you know that Suno can learn from your music? You've probably just used it like this. Type something in.
This TikTok influencer and
My mother, actually, she was. She told me she had gotten my dad into Doctor Who, and that sent him spiraling into sci-fi obsession. He was so into Star Trek. The thing, and yes, he was also computers has always been my dad's job. In the early 80s, I remember that's him how I know about BBS and all this stuff and compute and gaming. Yeah, they got me into gaming too. Oh wait, I just bumped myself.
Managers had his luxury party mansion raided after prosecutors say he was actually at the center of some alleged horrific crimes.
The man accused of running an OnlyFans operation out of a Bellevue mansion now faces 4 counts of human trafficking, money laundering, and leading organized crime. Exclusive video obtained by King 5 from last month shows one of dozens of parties inside the Bellevue mansion.
So meet Nikita Tiukalo, a 22-year-old from Seattle who, until recently, looked like every other self-proclaimed entrepreneur on social media. Honestly, he kind of looked like one of those Miami bros, with his Instagram being filled with, you know, luxury cars, stacks of cash, expensive watches, and his captions about making millions of dollars. And his bio even bragged about making $14 million in profit by 20, along with, I guess, private equity and sales. But by the time this story blew up, though, most of those Instagram posts had disappeared. But thankfully, what hadn't disappeared was his Threads account. So over there was still plenty of posts showing off the same lifestyle: flashy cars, expensive restaurants, parties, and the kind of content that basically social media's version of saying, "Trust me, bro, I'm rich." Essentially, LARPing. But I guess the only thing he was LARPing was where the source of the finances were from, because he definitely had money. The only problem is that money is from awful places. Because according to prosecutors, that image was not telling the whole story. And instead of, I guess, becoming known as the next big entrepreneur, Tiukalo is now sitting in King County Jail after being charged with 4 counts of second-degree human trafficking, 1 count of money laundering, and 1 count of leading organized crime. And currently, he's pleaded not guilty to every charge. And obviously, since this case is still ongoing, these are allegations that prosecutors will have to prove in court. Now, here is the crazy part, because police weren't originally investigating some massive criminal enterprise. They were responding to what looked like a neighborhood situation. So for months, people living near this luxury...
Yeah, so I'm eager to see how this can be life in prison. Like, that has got to be a lot of felonies.
Rental mansion in Bellevue kept calling the police about these huge weekend parties. And I mean, we're talking about like over 100 complaints and 911 calls. And neighbors described crowds of hundreds of people showing up, many of them reportedly underage, with loud music, traffic clogging the streets, and complete chaos in every weekend. And if you don't know too much about Bellevue, Bellevue is a quieter, rich suburb outside of Seattle. But I guess at first glance, it sounded like another influencer party house where everyone is trying way too hard to convince Instagram that they're living like, I don't know, music stars. But according to investigators, those parties were only the beginning, because according to court documents, multiple women came forward and described nearly the same story. So prosecutors say that Tykalo and others presented themselves as managers running a successful TikTok and OF agency. And this pitch was essentially they would handle all the marketing, messaging, and business side of things for the creators, and all the creators had to do was focus on making the content. The TikTok content, which is essentially the top of funnel, and the OF content, which is what they could really monetize and sell. And I guess in return, women were promised that they could make anywhere from $8,000 to $18,000 a month. And for someone who's just turned 18 or is about to, that is a pretty tempting offer, unfortunately. So investigators say that some of these women were first contacted when they were still 17 years old, and they were encouraged to start creating content as soon as they turned 18. One woman told detectives that she believed she would mostly be taking bikini photos and doing light modeling. Another said Tykalo claimed that he'd changed other women's lives, flying them on private jets and helping them make.
Okay, yeah, so, well, if they're 17, like, if he's just recruiting them and saying it's 18. Yeah, wait. As long as they wait until they're 18, there shouldn't be extra. When did they start doing OF? Because they better have. Yeah, the parental guardian has to sign off on it. And so I would assume
more money than they'd ever imagined. Essentially, he was selling the dream. So obviously he had this image of a young millionaire who cracked the code, and he was wanting to bring other people along for the ride. But prosecutors say that once the women agreed to join, that dream really started falling apart. So one of the first things that happened was the women's online accounts stopped being their own. Investigators say that the women were asked to verify their identities so OF and other platforms can actually approve of their creator account.
Your rig is only level 10? What a trash. Your bike is mine. No solar panels, even no turrets? Garbage.
Accounts, but they didn't have access to those accounts. So the women were locked out of their accounts and the payments were going to the dudes running it. And that also meant that they couldn't see how much money was actually coming in, and they couldn't respond to subscribers, and they couldn't even access their own earnings without someone else's permission. So again, guys, number one, massive heads up, if you're a woman out there, don't sign to one of these creepy OF managers, that's for sure. And number two, if you're a dude out there thinking that you're messaging some lady on on OF, that's not happening, bro. You're messaging some dude sitting in there, and he's probably like...
Yeah, geez, I got a quick... There's a button I have for bonking. Yeah, if you guys just saw that, I have the bonk button for when you get the trivia answers wrong when I do trivia quizzes. See, there you go. Yeah, I have that. And I get that and the pause and play hotkey for YouTube mixed up way too often. But yeah, so basically it sounds like human trafficking. And depending, I mean, are they there at the mansion? If they're there at the mansion and can't leave, then you got kidnapping too, but yeah, I'm just gonna stick with that this is human trafficking.
I don't know, analyzed all the human psychology to give you the most tempting response to keep paying more money. After looking into this story, it seems like they literally treat the women they sign as cattle, and they treat any dude who pays for this as pay pigs. Why would anyone ever want to be a part of this cycle? But one woman later told detectives that she discovered that an account in her name had generated nearly $230,000 in gross revenue, but she said she never saw anything close to that amount. And several women also told investigators that they've been promised thousands and thousands of dollars a month, but instead were paid around $1,000 a month while the operation brought in hundreds of thousands of dollars. But then on June 4th, everything just came crashing down. So a Bellevue SWAT team executed a search warrant at the mansion, and what investigators say they found inside was quite shocking. This was definitely not just another influencer house, because police reported seizing more than 300 cell phones, over 50 laptops, financial records, notebooks tracking earnings, and a giant whiteboard labeled content plan. They also impounded several luxury vehicles parked outside, including a McLaren that had become, I guess, a part of Tucalo's image online. But regardless, to neighbors, it looked like just like a mansion where people were just partying way too much every weekend. But to investigators, prosecutors at least say that it looked like a headquarters of a highly organized operation. But
yeah, okay, and cars, okay. I see McLaren. First off, my sister and brother-in-law and niece are into F1, so I think the McLaren's there. And then you got the Jack Doherty and the McLaren he crashed. I'm pretty sure that was McLaren he crashed. But then I think he's crashed most of his cars, expensive cars he bought, so I don't know.
according to prosecutors, again, the most disturbing part in this case isn't the money. It's what they say happened when the women wanted to leave. So court documents describe an environment where fear allegedly became the way the operation was run. So several women told detectives that they felt trapped. They were essentially warned that if they walked away, they could be sued for breaking their contracts. And others said that they were terrified that explicit content they had created would be released or used against them if they refused to keep working. But unfortunately, that's only the start of it, because the allegations became even more serious from there. So according to charging documents, multiple women described physical violence and intimidation. One woman told detectives there were what she described as massive firearms throughout one of the homes connected to the investigation. And prosecutors also alleged that women were slapped, dragged by their hair, and threatened when they did not do what was demanded of them. And there are also other things in court documents that I'm really not sure how to say on this channel without getting this video completely demonetized, but they involve a lot of forced humiliation and more firearms, and honestly, it's all just disgusting. And the women here were expected to work exhausting hours, sometimes live streaming and filming content for 12 plus hours a day. Like, this is just crazy. One woman also told detectives that a certain substance was handed out like it was candy to keep people awake. So I guess this is through marathon streaming sessions. And again, these are allegations laid out in the charging documents, and Tucalo has pleaded not guilty. So
okay, so yeah, there was kidnapping and assaults and oh yeah, so many felonies. This is okay. Marmalade, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. Relax. You're a good boy. No, you're a good boy. I love you. Okay, do not. No, don't lick my face right now, please.
it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out in court. But if prosecutors can prove them, this case goes way beyond just a dispute over some money. But I guess if you're wondering why this allegedly went on for so long without anyone stopping it, the answer is police actually started looking into Tucalo more than a year before his arrest. So newly released records show that Kirkland Police Department opened a separate investigation back in March of 2025 after 3 people walked into the police station and reported what they described as trafficking and extortion connected to Tucalo.
And yes, Kirkland. Oh, Marmalade. Wait, I'm trying to talk. You silly boy. Okay, do not lick my face right now. Okay, 570. Okay. Anyway, yeah, you just heard them say Kirkland, Washington. As in Kirkland's signature and Costco. I miss chicken bakes. I need my Costco. I love chicken bakes.
Accused of running a human trafficking ring out of Bellevue, had people reporting him to Kirkland police more than a year ago. But an investigation into those claims falling short of an arrest. And now the question is why?
Tools from Harbor Freight are doing hard work in real garages across America. Like Nico's one.
Well, Kirkland police say they started investigating Tucolo in 2025 when he lived at this apartment complex. That case stalled out. A year later, though, he's in jail on similar charges with bail set at $5 million. Part of the reason for that high bail amount were allegations of witness tampering outlined in these Kirkland police reports.
And Kirkland, by the way, is the suburb directly north of Bellevue, so all of this is kind of going on in the same area. And the people who came forward said a large man had been sent to their homes demanding money after falling out with Tucolo. They also reported seeing what they described as violence against one of the women working for him. So investigators even contacted the parents of some of these women who were deeply worried about what their daughters were up to. But here is where this case gets really complicated, because according to police records, when detectives spoke with the young women, they reportedly said that their parents' concerns were not needed. Some of them even claimed their parents were harassing them and discussed getting restraining orders against them. So as the investigation continued, officers wrote that they had a hard time getting witnesses to work with them. But eventually, one detective closed the investigation with a simple note: case closed due to the lack of victim cooperation. So I guess looking back now, that line hits a little bit differently, because prosecutors say that's one of the biggest challenges in human trafficking cases. People who are being controlled through fear, manipulation, financial dependence, or threats often just don't immediately see themselves as victims, or they're just simply too afraid to speak up. And according to the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, that's one of the big reasons these investigations can take so long to get any form of result or a criminal charge. Because fast forward to the end of June, and Tucolo, he was back in court trying to get his $5 million bail reduced to $100,000.
Yeah. Okay, I think that is my definition of flight risk. He's got money, and if he's got a network, yeah. Well, Canada is. He could flee to Canada as the closest, but I'm pretty sure he would be extradited easily back to the US, so that wouldn't help him. And yeah, go to Russia. He could go to Russia. That worked for Snowden. Yeah. But yeah, he could. $100,000 is not enough. It's enough felonies. Yeah, and lots of money. No.
His attorneys were arguing that he wasn't this wealthy businessman that prosecutors had made him out to be. They told the judge his assets had been seized and that he lost what money he had left to credit card fraud. Then they followed that by saying the whole case was just being exaggerated. In fact, his attorney argued that the allegations were essentially nothing more than wage theft. So while he's posting luxury cars, his argument in court is,
yes, remember, this is a defense attorney saying that he has to. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm going over. But the video's almost over.
well, I can't afford this because someone took all my stuff. Okay, this will be interesting to see how it all plays out in court, but prosecutors argued that releasing Tucolo would put the alleged victims at risk and pointed out to what they described as a history of witness tampering. Also, while sitting in jail, Tucolo made phone calls in Russian, instructing loved ones to move hundreds of thousands of dollars out of his bank accounts. So,
there we go.
That's
Russia,
not looking good for him. And one prosecutor even told the judge, Mr. Tucolo may believe that because he speaks Russian, implication that we don't know what he's saying on the calls. So apparently we just have a giga brain over here. But after hearing arguments from both sides, the judge denied the request to lower Tekalo's bond, leaving the $5 million bail and all the existing conditions in place. But the most powerful moment of the hearing didn't come from either of the attorneys. It came from one of the alleged victims, who spoke publicly for the first time. She told the court, "I will never forget looking at someone I loved and hearing him tell me if I ever spoke out about what I had been through, and if I ever opened my mouth, he would take my life because I knew too much." She also described watching what she says happen over time, in quotes saying, "I watched manipulation become normal. I watched violence become..."
No, Marmalade, get down. Get down from there, please, Marmalade. Come here. Come here. Come here. Where are your toys? Here, one of your toys is right here, Marmalade. Come get it. You know you want to play with it. You know you want to, buddy. Come on. Come on, play with your toy, Marmalade. Get it.
Normal. I watched controlling women become normal. So overall, I mean, everything about this case is just horrifying. So whether or not a jury convicts Tikalo, those statements help explain something that we've talked about throughout this video. People often ask why victims don't just leave or why they don't immediately go to the police. Obviously, fear, threats, financial control, and emotional manipulation come into play here. But as of right now, Nikita Tikalo has pleaded not guilty for 4 counts of second-degree human trafficking, 1 count of money laundering, and 1 count of leading organized crime. If he's convicted, he's currently facing decades in prison, with some reports noting that the organized crime charges carries the possibility of a life sentence under Washington law. And as of right now, his criminal case is still moving through the courts, so the allegations remain just that, allegations as of now. Obviously, every OF management agency isn't doing something illegal, but there's definitely a lot of sketchy ones out there, so
What was this saying? Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. Oh, he's a 6'7" former basketball player. Okay. I don't know what that said.
Of a life sentence under Washington law. And as of right now, his criminal case is still moving through the courts, so the allegations remain just that, allegations as of now. Obviously, every OF management agency isn't doing something illegal, but there's definitely a lot of sketchy ones out there, so be careful, guys. Currently, his next hearing is on July 21st, and that'll reveal a whole lot more evidence. So I'll definitely be looking out for that date. Until then, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe, drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.
Go away. Stupid ads. Okay, yeah, now we go. And now I go. Whoa, okay, there we go. That was it. Oh. Who wants to see the Hassan head trick I was talking about? Yeah, like I said, yesterday I was messing with stuff and finding, getting hotkeys. Was it yesterday? I don't know. No, it was the day before yesterday. I don't know. Anyways, thank you all for being here. And yes. And why I called it the little hotkey thing, why I called it Hassan head. Here, let me show you. That was it. Yeah. when I was checking to see what all the things that hotkeys I could set up, I want to see what they all did in that one. I just like, that is Hassan. That is Hassan head. Anyways, thank you very much all for being here. I hope to see you tomorrow in Discord or tomorrow's Thursday. So she will be streaming, Amber will be streaming again tomorrow, so I will see that. And again, thank you all for being here. I hope you have, I shouldn't be yawning. No, I'm not going to drink more coffee. I mean, I could, but it would be decaf, so. Take care. Thank you all for coming. Have a great night, and I will see you later.